Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are now facing the interesting talk about mentoring. And the talk is by Ela Krief. And Ela is a senior sales executive with 12 years of experience in startups and big tech companies. Ela drives her teams to sell through impact and storytelling, and through effective objection handling, and through long-term relationship building. Throughout her career, Ela, you have interviewed and hired tens of people, and you're an experienced mentor and coach, and supports women in obtaining senior leadership positions as a mission. You're currently working on a career development platform for women to accelerate gender equality in workplaces. That is super interesting. Doing, you are on a super important mission, and it's wonderful that you are here to tell us about that and how can we be part of that and how can we benefit from it, I guess. How are you doing, Ela? After all this intro.
I was just muted because there's an airplane passing by, so I didn't want you to enjoy the sound as much as I did. So thank you very much for the introduction. Really happy to be here. It's always a pleasure to talk about mentorship. And yeah, and I'm working at Google until the end of the year, and I'm starting to work on a startup together with two co-founders. And the aim of accelerating, I would say, gender equality in the workplace. And we're aiming to help women develop their career. And I think even more so, like take ownership over that, because a lot of the power dynamics is relating around people of power helping women advance, and that's problematic, inherently problematic. So we're trying to solve that through tech, which is challenging. Mm-hmm. So yeah, a great introduction. So spot on everything. I'm in sales for many years, but I've also done a lot of HR related activities, I would say, doing a lot of career mentorship, for women, career development and sales coaching. And that's my big passion, to develop people. And today I wanted to talk about mentorship.
So just before you start and I disappear, yes. Question about questions. Would you be taking questions at the end? Would you like people to type questions and then you'll be answering them? What's the best way?
I like to take questions. I like to see the questions while we progress, just to see kind of like what's the topics of interest in the crowd, and then I'll if it's spot on what I'm talking, that I will just take that question and already answer it. And if not, then we'll do all the questions at the end. I'll leave a few minutes at the end to answer everything that might come up from the audience.
Wonderful. Okay, then just type along your questions to Ela. And yes, with this wonderful applause, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Right. So like I said, I'll be talking about mentoring today. And the reason why I chose this topic to begin with is that I think mentoring is super effective. It's a very strong tool to promote our career. And that's why I'm founding this platform with my two co-founders in order to democratize this and make it a lot more accessible. So it's kind of like mystified right now. There's a bit of like uncertain things. And that's also some of the topics that I'll be covering today, how abstract mentoring could be. So mentoring, it's like I said, abstract. And I wanted to share with you today, why should you care about mentorship, in case you have encountered mentorship program within your organization or from pro bono organizations, and what it is that you need to know about it, like very much in a nutshell, to get you started. So mentorship, at the base of it is a way to help candidates that start working in an organization to become better employees through personal and professional development. And it's important because once you start, and I mean, the interview process is one thing, but once you start working in an organization, there's a lot of work to be done by you. You need to adjust to the organization. You need to start building your skill set, maybe developing skills that you already have to help perform better in your role and become stronger performer. And it doesn't really matter if you're wanting to progress, vertically, or you're comfortable within your role and you want to stay there, and this is what you want to be doing in your professional career. Mentoring can still help you feel more comfortable and expand everything that you already know, so you would become a subject matter expert in that specific role. It's also super important for your well-being, because I can maybe relate it to, or borrow a saying from a different space and say it takes a village. When somebody comes in an organization, when you start a new job, it's not enough to have just your manager in place or just your peers. You do need a lot of different allies around you to be able to become good, to become a high performer, to feel well treated and taken care of within the organization. And some of it is your responsibility as well. So the organization is responsible for giving you a lot of the framework and support you need in order to become a good employee and to retain you. But it's also something you owe to yourself. So this is about also how you can own some of the process. And there are several types of mentorship. The first one, which you probably already know, is one-to-one, which is a mentor or mentee and two people that come together. The relationship usually relies on the mentee being less senior than the mentor. The mentor is coming with more experience, more knowledge, is able to give advice. And it's sort of like a pull type of relationship where the mentee comes with questions or challenges, and the mentor is there to help and break it down and either facilitate a discussion or offer advice from their experience already. The second type would be group coaching, and that would be a group of people that are somewhat similar, I would say a cohort, that meet as a group together every time with a different mentor. And then they have a chance as a group to share the same maybe targets or aspirations, to get advice on the same topics from different types of people that can enrich their experience and increase their knowledge, help them improve skills. The third type is peer mentoring, which is when I would meet with somebody who is at my seniority level, has a similar experience to mine, but still we have, our day-to-day responsibilities. And for example, I would talk to a peer about how to manage performance conversations with my reports, and they would share the same from their side, and we would use best practices from each other. And then you have speed mentoring, which is maybe happened to me only when I was mentoring in accelerators, where I would meet 10 different startups throughout the day. I would sit in a room, they would switch, and they have again the chance to meet with 10 different people that can help them with a very focused challenge. So if we talk for 30 minutes and they say, oh, we're struggling with our go-to-market strategy, how can you help us? And then this is what we talk about for 30 minutes, and then they move on to the next mentor. And the last one, which you probably haven't heard before about, is reverse mentoring. It is when I, as somebody who's quite senior, would be mentored by somebody who's not as senior as me, maybe somebody from my team. So, for example, when I joined my recent job at Google, I already had a lot of experience in the industry and also in leadership, but I lacked the experience on some technical tools, our CRM. So somebody from my team actually gave me support as my mentor while I was learning how to use our CRM. So these are kind of like examples. And you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned your manager, like your direct manager as a mentee or mentor, because it could be your manager. Sometimes you have a manager that's like, very open, very good in supporting people, can facilitate growth. But sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes you just have a good professional manager who's there to manage the day-to-day activities, who can track performance, who can help you get resources. But maybe their skill set around personal and professional development are not that strong. So your manager also has a specific relationship of expectations from you, while with a mentor, you might not want to have that. Also, sometimes your manager might give you feedback on something you need to improve on, and then you don't want that person who gave you, a negative feedback to be the one who helps you grow, and you want to disconnect just for your personal well-being. So it could be your manager, it doesn't have to be. You can find mentors all over. I have several mentors. And this is also something that you should know, that you don't have to have a mentor in your career. You can have several mentors, where different mentors can provide different types of support. And if you think about how you mentorship run within organizations, or even in different mentorship programs that you're taking part of in organizations outside of your workplace, you would usually be matched with one person who can help you with one thing, but you might have other questions. So it would be probably the best to kind of have different people around you, different mentors, sort of like your executive board. So you would have different, or advisory board, different people that each one can advise you on different topics. And you need to, of course, manage those relationships. And it does take energy, but it's also has a great ROI. So you don't have to meet with those people every week or every month. You just have to maybe choose a handful of people or 3 people around you that would be able to be accessible to you, and you can ask them questions and get their advice when you're having challenges at work that maybe your manager is not the right person to address them to. I know that a lot of people sometimes want to have a specific person that they've heard of, and they're trying to reach them on LinkedIn, and at the base of it, they're strangers. And I get also a lot of messages from on LinkedIn. And the thing is that usually the people that you target might be super busy, but they also don't know you, so they don't have any type of commitment. So if you can get introduced, that's the best. But if you cannot get introduced and you're not getting that reaction that you're looking for, try to look for somebody else. You can get a lot of help from people that might not be sitting at the heads of organizations or holding super senior positions. You might be able to still find good mentors to help you. And mentors are just one type of allies you hold when you work in an organization, or generally when you want to have a career in tech or non-tech organizations. And mentoring is a little bit abstract, so I want to maybe go through 5 different types of relationships that people usually have within organizations, even if you don't know that there are 5 types. Maybe there are more, but I divide them into 5 types. So the first one would be the relationship you're having with your manager. So that would be the person who is in charge of your day-to-day tasks, your performance. You have targets or goals that you need to reach. And the type of conversations you usually have is some sort of walk through your task list, your deliverables, the quality of your deliverables, and this is one type of relationship we all have. And then you have the training part. So we all know training when you start working in a new organization. There's usually this onboarding part. It could be super, structured with a group that takes like a few weeks. It could be something that you do on the job, but there's still a training component. And that part is a push part where the trainer, let's say that I'm training people, the trainer pushes information toward you, and you're the one who absorbs it and practices it. So that's one type of relationship. For example, when I join a new job, I need to learn about the CRM that is being used in the company. And I would go to a training session or even take a course within the organization about the CRM and how it's being implemented and used. And that would be a push kind of relationship. And then comes mentoring, which is sort of like a pull relationship. If I'm the mentor and I have a mentee, the mentee, or what I would expect the mentee to do is come and say, okay, I have a challenge. Give me the context, provide me some information and data and what was already done to kind of solve the problem, and then ask for my advice. And my advice would probably be something that relates to quite a narrow problem. And when I say pull, I mean that the mentee needs to come to me and say, I need help with something very specific. I wouldn't normally, as a mentor, come to my mentee and ask them if they need help. So of course, that's my definition, and that's kind of differentiates between training, which is I teach, and then mentorship, which is I'm being asked. And that leads me to the third type of relationship, which is coaching. And that's when I'm also more senior, more experienced than the person who comes looking for help, but I am the one facilitating the conversation. So it's not my role so much to give advice. I can give advice at the end of the conversation, but I would normally just try to look at the person in front of me as the subject matter expert in their field. They have the role, they know what to do, they understand the KPIs, they understand the different dynamics, they understand the different stakeholders, and they are the experts. And I can ask them questions to help them lead themselves from the problem to the different types of solutions, to choosing a solution or the criteria of choosing the solutions, and then picking one and then justifying it and actually going and implementing it. So my role is not to find a solution or choose the solution, but rather ask questions that will help the person in front of me, pick their own brain in trying to find the right path to solve something. So, for example, if somebody would come to me and say, I have a client. They just we made some sort of a mistake with them, and now I don't know how to solve it. So I would start by asking, what was the situation? What was the customer angry about? What was our part in it? What do you think would be the right course of action? Why would that be the right course of action? And help the person just, verbalize the thought process they go through, and then come out the other end and say, oh, from the two solutions that I have, I think this one is better because there's lower risk, we can implement it faster, I can work in parallel on the other one while I try and mitigate that risk of the client attrition, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm not there to choose, I just facilitate the conversation. And the last type of allyship that people usually have within an organization is actually detached from the four others that I mentioned, which is manager, training, mentoring, and coaching. And that's sponsorship. And sponsorship is basically one thing, is me giving the benefit of the doubt to somebody who hasn't had an opportunity yet. And that could be me being in a position of power, hearing about an opportunity, connecting the dots, and recommending someone. And then also dealing with the oppositions of different stakeholders saying that person might not be the best for the role, but I feel they deserve the benefit of the doubt. So if you come back to my introduction saying that I'm into promoting diversity and inclusion and equality in the workplace, then what women usually lack in workplaces is a lot of sponsorship, because they're not getting people who give them the benefit of the doubt and allowing them to have access to opportunities that are not presented or not visible to them. So these are the 5 different relationships you usually have. And mentorship is the one that's like the most abstract of all of them. Why? Because I can train, because I give advice, right? And I can teach. I can also coach, because I can ask open-ended questions and facilitate the conversation. I can end up sponsoring someone as a result if I have the right connections. And I also might be the manager of that person. And that's why mentorship is kind of like mystified. It's not super clear how to manage a mentoring process. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted to build a platform, to make that a little bit more structured. I wanted to give you like an example of what a mentorship program might look like. So I'm part of a mentorship program of a group called Women in Tech. And I applied to that program. And then as a mentor, I couldn't choose to be both, so I could only be a mentor. And I chose to be a mentor, being quite senior and experienced in mentorship. And then 2 months later, I was matched with someone who was also senior. And the program manager thought it would be a good match because that person wanted to progress into a C-suite role within 5 years. The thing is that the program only kicked off like 2 months after, so 4 months from me applying and from my mentee applying. And by then, my mentee actually switched role within the organization and kind of changed her aspirations. And now the match is not that great. So we're actually trying to make the best out of it. But she's sort of stuck with me, and in chemistry-wise, it's fine. Like, we get along, we have meaningful conversations. But I mean, in hindsight, I think she would have probably been better off matched with somebody who can help her current aspiration come alive rather than me, because I'm more into leadership. So this is one challenge that current mentorship programs have, for example. And the way to kind of overcome it is you initiating those mentorship relationships by yourself, or through a tool, through friends, and having as many mentors or many mentorship relationships within your space as you try to progress your career. The problem could be even worse, because sometimes there are knowledge gaps. I matched with somebody who might not know their industry at all, and then conversations could turn into quite flat conversations, or the person is coming from an organization where I don't know the culture at all, or I don't know the stakeholders, and they start to explain a lot about the relationships and how the culture works, or I might not have the resources to help them, or not have access to resources. So the best way to kind of, for you in your career, to help yourself in your career development, you can sign up to mentorship programs, but also trying to find different stakeholders around you that would be able to help, that are not your manager. And don't be shy. Like, I collected my mentors throughout my career, and I kept on asking people, like, not I never asked like, do you want to be my mentor? Because that's a little bit awkward. But I just asked like, is it okay that I get your contact? I have a question on a specific topic, then present the topic and see if that would be okay to reach out to that person. So it's something that happens quite naturally, maybe like a little bit like dating or getting to know somebody new, like a friend or a spouse. You have to build that relationship little by little, unlike when your mentor is your manager and it's sort of like a matchmaking thing that already happened and you know that person. So I spoke a lot about the different types of relationships and maybe how to approach them and how to get the mentors. But why mentorship is even good? Because I just said like so many bad things about mentorship. It's abstract. It's not really clear what it is. You have to work really hard to get the mentors. So in terms of how mentorship is effective, then there are a few researchers that shows researches that showed that both mentors and mentees actually benefit from being part of a mentoring program. If you compare that to a normal report manager kind of relationship that involves around performance. So usually the numbers are that a mentor increases their chance of being promoted by 6. So 6 times more likely to get promoted. And a mentee is 5 times more likely to get promoted if they participate in a mentoring program. And it's not like the same two together. So it's not like if the mentor is times 6, then it's assigned mentee is times 5. It's just like normally any mentee, any mentor on average has at least 5 times more likelihood to getting promoted. It also affects dramatically the retention rate of both mentor and mentee by more than 20%. So it's clear that it works. It's just not so much clear like what it is and how to structure a mentorship relationship. But that's something that the mentor and mentee needs to work on together. And it works so well that if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, then 71% of Fortune 500 companies actually run mentorship program within their organization. So they're super big, and they still feel that this is important to run on top of, have every person or every employee still having a manager, and that manager is assigned to help them with their well-being and the personal and professional development. But the mentorship program that runs in parallel is super powerful. Greatly influences, like I said, the promotion rates and the retention rates of employee, and improves their overall well-being and sense of belonging to the workplace. So it really works, and that's why, even though it's a little bit abstract and might not be so accessible or available to you in your workplace, something that I strongly recommend, paying attention to, and trying to find that advisory board, several different people that are accessible to you to answer different questions and to give you advice when you have challenges in the workplace. Even when your manager is a good mentor or a good coach, you might still want to get a different type of advice from another person. So I gave you one example of how am I as participating in a mentorship program and how powerful that was. But maybe it's good also to give you an example of why I started that, and that was me being mentored, and that's how I was exposed to mentorship, and felt that it's something that I want to be involved in because I felt how impactful that was for my career. So I started by, I'm in the middle of my career. I'm quite senior now, but there was a time not so long ago that I felt that I'm, very capable, very smart. I can do a lot of things, but for some reason my career just did not take off. And I saw a lot of people around me that were getting help from people, and I just didn't know how to reach out and get that connection going with somebody who can be my mentor, coach, sponsor, somebody that can really help me lift myself and create that growth in my career. And what happened was that I had a manager who was really accessible and very communicative. And one of the things that he did was just to verbalize what it is that he's doing that was actually mentorship. So he said, when you are having a problem, don't come to me with the problem because I can solve it, but that doesn't help you develop the skill. Instead, just come to me after you've gathered information, decided on a few solutions that you feel are feasible, chose one solution, had the criteria of choosing that solution, come to me and, bring the case, say, I chose this solution, these are the criteria. This was the information I based my choice on. This is how I gathered the data or the information. What do you think? And then I can help you understand what's broken in your thought process or what could be improved, or even reinforce you that whatever it is that you're doing actually works. And by breaking down what he does, what he did, and what mentoring is, it's not about just giving advice and telling you about this is wrong, this is right, but actually breaking down that thought process and making you think over your approach to problem solving in this case, or it could be any other task that you're having as part of your roles responsibility. I really understood what it's like to pass on information and challenge somebody in front of me, not just to, be super hardworking, overachiever, but also challenge those areas that are weaker, and really develop a new type of ability in a systematic way. So he didn't just tell me, go back and think about it, but really broke it down to different stepstones and said, this is what you need to do next time you want to solve a problem. So this is in a nutshell. I'm coming back to the beginning just to tell you a little bit more about my platform, which is a platform that's supposed to do all of that, give you access to mentors, and help you with structuring those conversations, help you build that advisory board of different mentors, help you find mentors that could help you in different areas, because your manager might be really good in problem solving or in executive communication, but they might not be great in, figuring out how to get better in time management. So the advisory, collecting different mentors around you actually helps you create an advisory board and get support in different areas that you feel that you want to develop personally or professionally. So the platform is supposed to help you do all that. I'm super excited because for me, it's like bringing into life things that I've been doing in my personal career that I know have made a huge impact and helped me get to where I am today, but also helped a lot of the other people that I work with, because this is what I teach them, to create, a circle around you of subject matter experts that each one is good with something else, and you can address them in rotation based on the challenges that you're currently having. And that's it. So we have a few minutes left, and I would love to open the floor for questions. If anyone has any question relating to mentoring or coaching or how to get access to those people, this is a great time to start. So there is a question on the chat, which is working for 5 years, I built relationships with mentors, and now I would like to share my experience with younger women or act for diversity. Do you have any advice? I can just share what I did, which is basically I tried to look for different organizations that offer mentorship programs. And that was my first step in becoming, I would say, I don't know how to call it, but maybe a professional or a paid mentor, which is what I do in my own business. I just wanted to practice that skill. I felt like I know what worked for me. I felt that I wanted to give back and teach other people everything I know, but I also felt that I need to develop the skill set that a good mentor has, which is about leadership, active listening, deep listening, giving advice, asking questions, that bundle of things that you do and how you act. So the best advice is just to collaborate with one or two organizations that constantly have meetups or panels, and try to, jump in the water and just try to mentor other people and see what the reactions are, see what works for you, what doesn't. What I've learned, for example, is that I was having a really hard time focusing the sessions or focusing the conversations. And then we would end up reaching the end of the time slot or the session without any conclusion. Or we would have 5 or 6 sessions and then not reach any action items. So that really helped me focus myself on thinking upfront, like from the first interaction, for the first 5 minutes of the session, if it's a one-time session, and really focusing on one thing that I want to achieve and come out of this session with. So I think don't overthink it. Just try. I think usually the problem that I'm encountering is that women have a lot to give, or people in general have a lot to give, and what's blocking them or preventing them from actually helping other people is the fear of not being good enough at that. And let me reassure you, it's rarely the case that people who want to give back don't have enough to give. So just start with any type of organization. It could be people who are, immigrants, people who are transitioning between jobs. There are many different communities where people are looking for help to improve their CVs, or get ready for interviews, or want to switch from a non-tech role to a tech role and need to understand the lingo of the new world. So you can definitely partner with those, be active there a little bit, and then, group back and think with yourself, what are the areas you need to work on to actually bring more value to your mentees. And that's it. And I'm sure you're going to find your path. It's so individual. I mean, it could go to so many directions. I hope that answered the question. And moving on to the next one. When is your mentoring program be online? Well, I hope that we will start giving, early bird registration in a couple of weeks, maybe early January. So if anyone is interested, you can follow me up on LinkedIn, and I'll probably post something so you can look at that. And then the full MVP, I don't know, probably March, February. It depends on how fast our CDO works. And probably last question, because we have 3 minutes left. What breaks the relationship and progress between a mentor and a mentee? Any do's and don'ts for mentee? I don't know if there's a do's and don'ts for a mentee. I would really actually look it from the other way around and say the relationship is for the mentee. So it's really up to you to set up the ground rules of what are the do's and don'ts for you. And I would maybe say, setting up expectations, really be clear about what type of help you're looking for, and then the mentor has a better chance of telling you, oh, I'm really good at that, I can help you, or that's not my area of expertise, maybe you should look for someone else. So setting up expectations up front. And then while you're having meetings, be very open about what plugs into your needs, what works for you, what doesn't. If the mentor gives you an advice that you don't feel is relevant to your world or feasible, or you are not ready yet to implement it, then it's something that is good to communicate, so you would be able to find a different solution to your problem. And on the other hand, I would say also, sometimes when you resist, try to think with yourself, maybe go back home and have a little asynchronous discussion with yourself about why it is that you actually resist something, and make a learning experience out of it, rather than just pushing back on the mentor's advice or the mentor's effort, because sometimes they have a different point of view, their perspective is quite clean, and sometimes there is a point to what they say, and sometimes it's a pattern that is hindering your ability to get to where you want to get to. Sometimes it's just their advice. So it's a little bit tricky, and that's why not reacting in the moment and actually doing that asynchronous conversation with yourself is good. Go back home, have a little review with yourself of what happened during the session, what happened, what made you angry, what made you upset, what made you unhappy, and think if it's really making you unhappy right now, or if it's something that is happening consistently throughout different roles, different interactions, and then basically what it is that you want to do with that. So at this note, I think we are ready to wrap up, right? I guess. Any more questions?
There. Sorry, just stepping in for Natalie. Yeah, thank you so much, Ella. That was super, really interesting. And I just want to let everyone know that we're going to have all the recordings from today's presentations on the website for tomorrow. So,
oh my God, that would be alive forever now.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone's listening and wants like have questions after that you didn't have time or headspace to actually formulate them now, then feel free to just reach out on LinkedIn and ask me. I usually respond quite quickly. So thank you for listening today. Always happy to talk about mentorship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that is us. The end of the day. We are back tomorrow from the site is open, so anyone, if they want to join, can go into the networking rooms, chat with some other people. The first session is at 10, an opener, and then we'll be kicking off from there. The full schedule is on the event platform. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.